What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick and I have a collection update for you. Now this one is kind of interesting considering most of this I didn't buy. Actually, a good chunk of this was given to me by one of our fans on the channel, Patrick Campbell. He actually works for a distro slash promo company, or works with this company called Dark Horizon out of Indiana, and I ran into him at the show and he gifted me a whole bunch of CDs. Now this isn't all of them because most of them I actually have, and I'm going to actually impart some of those in another giveaway eventually at some point, but I did kind of distribute them out to some of the Thralls who hadn't been exposed to some of this stuff, but there's plenty left over. So this is kind of an interesting one. A lot of this stuff is very underground, kind of ranging from all over. Stuff I definitely like, stuff I didn't like, but I'm still glad I got it because it was really cool of them to give me this stuff. And of course, stuff I bought in record stores because it's me. So let's go ahead and get started on this one. Abigail Williams, Legend. This is their debut EP. It came out in 2006. I believe this is the reissued version on Candlelight USA. I'm a big fan of Abigail Williams, though more of their recent stuff than their earlier stuff. This is very different from, I would say, like the last 3 albums of theirs. This was more akin to, I would say, Black Dahlia Murder, except more symphonic elements, maybe a little bit more black metal, but there's definitely a lot of metalcore and melodic death metal roots in there. Drum work is very tight and very Black Dahlia Murder-ish. In fact, I found out the drummer on this actually played in Black Dahlia Murder, and coincidentally, I saw him play in Shit Life at this show where I ran into Patrick when he gave me the CD, so it's kind of an interesting little connection there. But yeah, this is a lot different than what I'm used to from Abigail Williams, but this is still really good. It's just a very different style. Honestly, I haven't listened to stuff like this probably since this came out. I was a big fan of their debut full length, but honestly, I like the direction Abigail Williams is going now. And Ken Sorceron is an incredible songwriter. That dude is really good, and that last album I think was possibly the best one yet. Still good, just very different, and you know, I guess you could say Growing Pains sort of emulating stuff that was coming out at the time, but it still had some really cool black metal touches to it. But yeah, fun release. Definitely check it out. I recommend the newer stuff just in terms of my taste, but if you like Black Dahlia Murder, you should definitely dig this, so check it out. Engorge, Cold Black Ejaculation. If I had a nickel for every time that happened, I would not have any nickels at all, thank God. This is the 3rd album from this band, came out in 2005 on Dark Horizon, and this is blackened death metal. It actually features ex-Incantation guitarist Ronnie Dio. No, not that one. This is Dio spelled with E in the last name, and it's very raw, and the production on this is really odd. That's really what kind of caught me off guard. Well, that and the really long intro of the first track. The vocals are way out front and the guitar seemed muffled as hell, and I honestly couldn't tell if this was a drum machine or not, but I think it is actually a real drummer. Very raw, very blackened production, I guess, or at least that's what they were going for, but it's mixed really oddly. Not a lot of the songs really grabbed me. Honestly, the one that grabbed me the most was probably the Darkthrone cover, God of Disturbance and Friction. Honestly, it was kind of the most put together song on here, and it's tracked really odd in terms of like how it lines up on the back here. It doesn't line up that way on the CD, at least. I don't know, it's kind of odd. And this does what I really just am so tired of. It has a ton of silent tracks on here. A ridiculous number. I want to say it went up to like 30 of them. It was probably more. I don't know. It was kind of irritating. But overall, interesting album. I'm not really super into it. I like my black and death metal with a little bit more production value, or at least some. Like, this is just mixed badly, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to get into the songs when you can't hear the guitar riffs very well and the vocals are really out in front. But I mean, overall, I'd still say check it out. Form your own opinions. I don't know if I'll have to censor this album cover. I don't know. Maybe YouTube won't be able to make out some of the stuff. I am going to have to censor some of these other ones, but we'll take a chance on this one. But yeah, check it out. You might dig it. I wasn't really a fan, but still, that's just me. Engorged, Where Monsters Dwell. I swear this is not the same band. They just have a D on the end, and it's a totally different band, and this is a lot better. This is the third album from this Portland death grind act that features Sean McGrath of Ghoul and Impale on vocals, and Kevin Schredekamp, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, anyway, drummer from Ritual Necromancy, Ascended Dead, and even Lord Gore. So I was already interested when I saw who was on this, and I'm a big fan of Impaled, I'm a big fan of Ghoul, Ascended Dead whoops so much ass, and this is awesome death grind. It kind of sits right in between Impaled and Ghoul. Good balance of thrashy riffs, but it's definitely like grind as fuck. And of course, loads of horror samples. There's a tongue-in-cheek energy on this, but this is riffy as hell, and it is pure fun to listen to. I have to say, one of the samples struck a personal chord with me in terms of my 80s upbringing and watching cartoons. The sample is from Inhumanoids, and I absolutely loved that cartoon when I was a kid. Very short-lived, but they had a character called Decompose, and they actually had his bit on there, like his chest opened up and you went in it, and then you turned into a zombie or some horse shit. I don't know, it was a weird cartoon. It was a little messed up for daytime programming for kids, but I still dug it. But yeah, I thought that was really cool, and a lot of the other samples in here are really effective as well. I mean, it's definitely like tongue-in-cheek horror all over the place. It's almost like crossover grind. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's the kind of feel on it. The songs are still longer, but you know, they're just packed with energy. They're constantly going, and riffy as hell. It's not just a blur of blast beats. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. This album is just fun to listen to. That is one of the main things. I definitely want to get more of their stuff. If it's anything like this, I am 100% down for finding more Engorged. This is awesome. If you've never jammed this band and you're a big fan of Impaled or Ghoul or Exhumed or anything like that, I strongly recommend checking this band out. This was absolutely awesome. Check them out. From a Second Story Window, Delenda. This is the debut album from this Ohio-based metalcore band. Came out in 2006 on Metal Blade / Black Market Activities. And I actually have their second album, their final album, Conversations. They broke up not too long after that. And this was metalcore, but this was the really spazzy, technical metalcore. Like, definitely a lot like early Between the Buried Me and Dillinger Escape Plan. Like, very spastic songwriting, and only holds on to like a riff for a second and then moves on to another spastic moment. The transitions are real wild and nutty. I always found this style of metalcore really difficult to get into. Like, I do like Dillinger, I obviously love BT Bam, but BT Bam progressed and so did Dillinger, and they kind of got a little bit more control in their songwriting. These guys just spaz out left and right. For every like melodic hook that's on here that I really did get into, there were like 40 other like spazzy sections on here that I was like, well, they're talented and they can definitely play a lot of cool stuff. It just doesn't fit together, and it kind of comes across as what I call ADD core. It just is not very focused. It's just focused on being weird. This album has its moments, as does the second one, and I don't know, it was just kind of difficult for this band to really stick in my mind, since during this time it was peak overload when it came down to metalcore acts. They were all over the place, and every label had them, and you kind of got lost in the shuffle a bit. So if you're into that kind of wild, crazy style of metalcore that was just, you know, spazzy and lots of freakouts, definitely check this out. Not only my thing anymore, but you might dig it. So check it out. Funeral Rape, Sexperiment. This is the second album that came out by this Italian porno grind act. I fucking hate porno grind. It's terrible. I really wish I had good things to say about this. I did listen to it. I listened to the whole thing just to see if I could find something interesting, and no, it's not good. The entire time I really wish I was listening to like Hemorrhage, which is awesome, you know, grindcore, death grind from Italy. But this is just, it's dumb. I don't like porno grind at all. It's just something I can't get into. A few decent riffs here and there. At least they had real drums. They're not like programmed obnoxious drums. Tons of porn samples. They're all in Italian, so there's that. And yeah, I gotta keep my finger over this just in case YouTube's watching, and I also gonna have to break out the censor bar for the album cover. And that's not gonna be the only one that I have to bring out the censor bar for. But yeah, I'm not the best judge on whether a porno grind band is good or bad, because it's all kind of bad to me. It's just dumb, but not in like the dumb fun way. It's just, I don't know, it's just too stupid. I mean, you know, some of the song titles I guess are funny. Hammered Asshole, sure. Don't Blame the Horse, yeah, that would be unfair, right? It fucks, I'm sure it does. Yeah, oh yeah, no, never mind, there's really no reason for me to like this at all. They actually have this little Goth Sucks campaign, join us, and they actually use the word fags on there. So no fags, no goth, no fun, no trend. So yeah, this sucks on another level too. So yeah, not a fan. Don't recommend if you have any taste whatsoever, but yeah, it's just dumb porno grind. So yeet. Okay. Groinchurn Sixtimesnine. This is the debut album from this South African death grind mincecore. I'm still fuzzy on what mincecore is exactly. I gotta look up that definition just so I at least get the definition for it. But this came out in 1997, and this is some really awesome death grind. It's very varied in terms of, like, you know, the styles they bring in. You get like slow, sludgy parts, great death metal riffing on here. Really solid production, lots of vocal variety, like you get different kinds of screams and growls, and very different songs like back to back. They're not trying to pack a bunch of like blast beat songs so much back to back. I mean, they do occasionally, but there's a lot of cool songwriting on here, and I really like that because, you know, grind, you can get kind of focused on just being explosive as hell without, you know, sprinkling in a little nuance. These guys sprinkled in a bit of nuance, and oh, well, a little bit too much. The title track is pretty much just ear-bleeding noise, but I mean, if you're into that, that's cool. But Hail the Conquerors, one of my favorite tracks on here, is decidedly atmospheric, like really well written, like, I don't know, interesting riffs, and I guess you could say melody. Like, it actually has some really cool hooks. And I mean, they do have a song on here called I'm a Cunt, and I feel like they know me. Even back in 1997, that was still very much true. But overall, I really dug this. I definitely want to look up more of their stuff, and not their splits. Oh my god, these guys love splits. They have 18 splits amongst just a handful of full lengths. That's entirely too much collecting for me. I don't know if they have compilations of all that stuff on CD. That would be preferable, because I'm just not going to go hunt down that many splits. But I do like this band. I definitely want to check out more by them. This is really solid grindcore / death grind, and if you have never checked these guys out, definitely check them out, and this is a good place to start. In Articulo Mortis, the time has come. This is the second album from this Czech death metal act. Came out in 2005. This band ended up splitting up in 2010. I forget how many other releases they had, but this is straight up very 90s death metal. It screams like kind of Tampa stuff, except not very well produced. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a theme on some of these. This one has another kind of interesting one. The bass is very up in the mix and the guitars feel very thin, but it's kind of uneven because sometimes you kind of get the levels right on different tracks, so I don't know if this was all mixed by the same person. I forgot to look it up. But the bass is very prominent and has like a lot of weird effects they like to bring up. Like, it is like not in the right spot in the mix. It's way too up front. Now, generally I like hearing bass in the mix, but you can still not kind of overpower the mix with it. Musically, there's some good songs in here. I like 45 Seconds and Suffering. I think those both have some really cool songwriting on there. Again, very Floridian death metal. But unfortunately, most of this is kind of rinse and repeat. There's not a lot of variety on here. In fact, the opening track, God is Dead, is really long for an opening track, and it's not particularly interesting. I feel like this is what you get if you order a Deicide album from Wish. It's very similar to Deicide, but it's definitely not as good. I have not checked out any of their other albums, though, so I'm going to reserve judgment on all their works, of course, because I haven't listened to them. But this one really did not strike much of a chord with me. There were some songs I did like, though, so I guess there is some potential. I'm still going to check out some more stuff by these guys, just so I get a better knowledge of their work. But this one didn't do much for me. But still, I recommend checking it out. Form your own opinions. Don't listen to me. I'm just a person on the internet. While I might not be that into this, this might be your new favorite thing. I don't know, but check it out. Lividity. Used, Abused, and Left for Dead. This is the third album from this Decatur, Illinois brutal death metal act / ladies men. This is the first Lividity album I've ever owned. I've known about this band for a while. I'm picky when it comes down to brutal death metal, and yeah, all the album covers kind of turn me off because it's pretty much just like, well, how many different ways can we fuck up a chick? Well, I mean, this one, it looks like, I don't know if the tree did it or I don't know, but either way, yeah, Censor Bar's got to come back out once again just to be safe, and we'll do that, I guess. I don't know, it's just, there's enough reflection here, you're not going to make it out. But musically, some of this I actually liked. I was kind of surprised because I'm, again, really picky when it comes down to brutal death metal, like the overuse of pig vocals, which they do on here, kind of as a turnoff. The drums, though, while very impressive, this guy is blasting his fucking nuts off on here, and tons of cool fills across the board, but it's the sound of the drums. That really clicky bass drum. The snare is not the worst I've heard. It's not like super slam plunky, but it's very loud and it can kind of drown out stuff. But I do like the riffs in here. The riffs are pretty good. And a little bit of humor. The song The Coming of the Trilogy, and coming is spelled the way you probably think it is. Pussy Lover Part 3. There's a whole bit about a dude fucking a chicken, or selling a chicken, and then telling the guy he fucked it, or he might fuck chickens. I don't know. It's weird, but it is kind of funny. And of course, what's a release like this without a lot of porn samples? Because there's plenty of those. These are in English though, so I can understand a lot of the stuff that's going on, even though I think it's just layered and weird. Not really my style, but I have to say some of this was pretty well executed, and there are some really cool riffs on here. I'm kind of glad I got this one for free because I've never really had Lividity on my radar, but I at least checked it out. I gave it a full listen, and it's okay, but honestly, it's just not really my style. But if you love insanely fast brutal death metal and porn samples and porn horror and yeah, that stuff, definitely check out Lividity if you have not heard of them before. You might dig them. I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan, but I at least gave them a shot. So yeah, check them out. Mercenary, The Hours That Remain. This is their fourth album, came out in 2006 on Century Media Records, and this is a power metal / melodic death metal band. I'm generally not a power metal fan, but with that mix of melodic death metal heaviness, I actually got into this, and the vocals are primarily clean on here, and I wasn't turned off by it. I mean, you have pockmarked, screaming sections, but musically this is very heavy. I love the big thrashy riffs, the big mellow death riffs. There's big, heavy, syncopated breakdowns. Reminds me a lot of like Soilwork, Scar Symmetry, and even a little bit of Nevermore. There's really tasty lead work on here. This album is over an hour long. It's a pretty long album, but it's really good. Honestly, I was not bored at all listening to this, and there are some great songs there. I really, really enjoyed Lost Reality in particular. Lots of variety. I would say it even borders on progressive metal a little bit. I've known of this band for a while. I just never picked up a release by them, and I think I need to get some more because I really enjoyed this. This was solid songwriting across the board. Great balance of melody and heavy, heavy riffs. Like, this gets surprisingly heavy for something labeled as power metal. I'm not the biggest power metal fan. I think pretty much anyone that watches this channel knows that by now, but I really dug this. So yeah, I think I may have found like a little segue into power metal here. Maybe. I wouldn't count on it, but I know I really like this, so I'm going to be on the hunt for more of their stuff. This is really solid if you've never jammed it and you love, again, stuff like Soilwork and Scar Symmetry and Nevermore. Definitely check this out. This is a killer album. Check it out. Alright, gonna have to forgive me on the pronunciation here. This is Natassievila with their album Iter Lethalis. This is their debut album, came out in 2007 on Dark Horizon Records, and this is a black metal act from Italy. In terms of style, I guess you could say this is more raw black metal, but there is like something different about them in terms of their approach. I was surprised at how loud and clear the drums were. So in terms of production, I think that's something I liked, though the rest of production, it kind of varied from song to song. These guys love atmosphere, all the dissonant riffs and everything like that, but some of this could use just a little bit more melody. In fact, I think Near Death, that's where the melodic hooks are really coming in, and I really liked that song. It was really well written, big melodic hooks, but it was still heavy and dissonant and creepy. Some of the more atmospheric parts on here, like where they just had like keys or samples, they didn't sound like they were recorded as well. But I guess that kind of contributes to the raw feel, because this is black metal. It's supposed to be raw, creepy, dissonant, cold, grim, all that stuff. But there's a lot of them. And in fact, Near Death and Beyond Earthly Life both have really long intros. I think maybe just stripping out some of that and getting down to what they're really good at, which is just writing raw black metal with big riffs and just pummeling drum work, that would appeal to me more. And honestly, there's enough of that on here that I would be willing to check out more by this band. So yeah, this is not too bad. There's just some minor things about it that I didn't get into, but honestly, it's pretty decent, and I would definitely check out more by this band. So if you like raw black metal with some, you know, atmospheric bits in there, definitely check this out. Holocaustum, In the Fields They Bled. This came out in 2015 on Dark Horizon Records. This is this band's second full-length album. They are from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and this is death metal. And it's kind of an interesting blend of styles in terms of death metal. It feels very Tampa, but it also feels like very like European, like a little bit like Swedish metal in there, but not like Entombed or Dismember. I don't know, like just kind of like a European sound in general, like, you know, like German death metal, or even like English death metal, because there's definitely spots in here that have like the battle epicness of Bolt Thrower, except that'll switch to almost like brutal death metal at times, but then mix that with melodic death metal. So they cover a lot of bases as far as death metal in general. Now the brutal death metal side kind of makes sense since their drummer actually played in Gorgasm and Warfather, so I'm pretty familiar with his work there because I love Gorgasm. But a lot of this can kind of run together. Now, this band actually has a frontwoman, and she growls her guts out on this, and she has this really low, nasty growl, and it's really good. My only complaint, though, is she does the one growl pretty much across the board, and hearing some variance in there would be really cool, just in terms of like a high scream every now and then. But overall, her delivery is solid. The only complaint I have, like musically overall, is I think the songs run a little bit long. Most of these are, I think, over 5 minutes. There are some 6 and 7 minute tracks on here, and they can kind of drone on a little too long on certain parts. But overall, the music is really solid. I like the style. I like the blend of different stuff on here. You know, it's kind of like, again, this wide, sprawling death metal sound. And even occasionally you get a little bit of like black metal atmosphere. I think Atrocities of War was the one that I got like a little bit of that. This was my first exposure to the band, and honestly, when I looked at the cover, I was expecting something like very jungle rot-ish, which that would have been awesome too. But what I got was a little bit different, and for the most part, I really liked it. So yeah, if you like epic battle-driven death metal, but also brutal death metal and a little bit of melodic death metal too, definitely check this out. It kind of covers all those bases. Songs are long, but most of them are really good on here, and I strongly recommend checking them out. All right, we got a split between Coffins and Depression. This came out last year in Hell's Headbangers, and I love Coffins. I was pretty much going for the Coffin side. The 3 tracks they do are absolutely killer. Both bands do covers, which I think was really cool. Coffins does a amazing cover of Graves' Morbid Way to Die. It absolutely whoops ass, as well as their other 2 tracks in here, which are theirs, and it's Coffins. It's death doom, it's sludgy, like autopsy and incantation kind of combined. It's just gross, and I love it. Now, Depression actually covered Coffins on here, which I thought was really cool. They covered Altars and Gore, and they did a good job. Now, Depression I wasn't familiar with. They're a German death grind act, but it's like death grind mixed with like Swedish death metal in terms of the HM2 tone, a lot of D-beat and crust in there. Reminds me a lot of Trap Them, which I miss that band, but this band right here, Depression, actually kind of brings almost all those elements in there with like a little bit of despair in there. It's gritty as hell, it's just vicious sounding, and honestly, like death grind may not be like the right word for it, but that is kind of where they fit in. But again, lots of crust elements, lots of droning atmosphere. Like, it's just flat out heavy. Both sides of this are flat out heavy. If you love Coffins, just get this. If you just like heavy, ugly riffs in general, just get this split, because this thing was a boatload of fun to listen to. I definitely want to find some Depression stuff. I'm always on the hunt for more stuff by Coffins, and this is the kind of Depression I don't mind being familiar with. I mean, I've definitely been exposed to the other kind, but yeah, fuck that shit. This is badass. I think Coffins did another split this year, which I'm gonna be looking for just because it's Coffins, I'm already interested. But yeah, if you haven't checked this out, definitely do it. This is a badass split. Paradise Lost at the Mill. This is their live performance that they put out a CD and a Blu-ray for, and when I saw the cuts that were on YouTube, I had to get it. And from what I've jammed of it, I haven't completed it because I just pretty much stopped listening to the CDs. Like, I should be watching the Blu-ray, and then I got caught up watching something else. But I know this is absolutely awesome. Paradise Lost rules. This live set is incredible. It's a really, well, it's kind of like they're playing in a mill. I think it is a mill. That would make a lot of sense. But this has an awesome live set. A lot of stuff from the new album. I'm a huge fan. I mean, the live rendition of Fall from Grace. Ugh. God, you can just feel how steeped in misery that song is, but I absolutely love it. It's such a great hook. The whole chant of "We're all alone." Oh, man, does that get me in the feels? Not in a great way either. But this is an awesome performance, and that isn't the only live performance I decided to pick up, because I'm generally not big on picking up live performances, but there are certain bands I will. This was one of them. Strongly recommend checking it out because it's Paradise Lost and they're amazing. And the other one, Devin Townsend, Galactic Quarantine. I've already watched this, though not when it happened. I watched it later after it had been on YouTube forever. This is an amazing performance, and the lineup that he got with Wes Hawk on guitars and Sixtimesnine on drums. Wow, amazing. And it was so good to hear him play some old school Strapping and Lead songs. Love Detox. Oh my God, Almost Again. There's so much good stuff. All Hail the New Flesh. I haven't heard him touch those songs in forever, like just like, you know, live snippets here and there. And after hearing Empath, hearing that style again, I was hopeful that he would play these songs live again. Granted, I didn't want a plague to be the thing that got him to do it, but it happened, and this is awesome. Amazing live performance. I love Devi. Pretty much, he can do very little wrong in my mind. He's just an incredible composer, songwriter, human being, metalhead, all that. If you have not checked this out, or just in the YouTube videos, I strongly recommend checking this out. This was such a killer live performance, and yeah, Devi rules. So does Paradise Lost, and yeah, they both inspired me to get some live stuff. This also comes with the Blu-ray too, so yeah, I gotta watch the whole performance again. But yeah, definitely seek both of those out. Find them, because they're good. Check it out. And finally, we have Cathexis, Untethered Abyss. This is the third album from this Texas technical death metal act. Came out on Willowtip Records this year, and this is the kind of technical death metal that I dig. It's very dissonant, atmospheric, heavy riff driven. It's not overtly so technical where the songs stop making sense and it just becomes like a factory of noodling. This is riff driven and heavy as hell. I really like the production on it. It has these big swampy heavy guitars and loads of dissonant tags on the end of them. Really nasty low vocals. The drum work in here is fantastic. This guy loves to accent riffs with like really cool cymbal work, and it really stood out on here. The only thing that was a drawback in here was they could use a little bit of atmosphere to separate the tracks up a little bit, because it was kind of hard to tell where one track ended and the next began, because there was literally like no break between some of them. Other than that, I love the music. This was solid technical death metal that's very murky, like Suffocation and Rivers of Nile. Kind of just throw those two together and you kind of get what this band sounds like. Really good stuff. I'm gonna look for their other albums, because if they're as good as this, I definitely want them. I believe they will be touring with Black Crown Initiate, and I might be gonna go see them. So yeah, I look forward to hearing these songs live. So if you've not checked these guys out and you need some technical death metal with some real grit to it, check this out. All right, well, that knocks out another collection update. And thank you again, Patrick Campbell, for giving me all that stuff. I really appreciate that, and I'm glad you came all the way out to the show and helped support local acts around here. That was really cool. So, of course, we're looking forward to a whole new month of reviews. August looks like it has some really killer releases we want to go over. Still working on the Cannibal Corpse thing. It's kind of slow going because this is a really difficult one to rank. And now that shows are popping up, we definitely want to hit as many as we can, and it looks like they're all clustering around October and September, which is going to be a pain in the ass trying to schedule which ones we can hit and which ones we're going to have to miss. But we're going to try to hit as many as possible, and we hopefully will get to see some of you guys there. So make sure you say hi and tell us how much you like the channel or don't like the channel. Tell us anyway. Just pop by, say hi, we'll be at the shows and headbanging and buying a shitload of merch. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, we would much appreciate that, and there will be a link below in the description. We're going to work on putting more stuff on there. We've kind of been lax on there with moves and such, and we have more moves coming, but we're going to get back to doing that. And, of course, we have shirts still available, mostly just XL, 2XL, and larges right now. There might be a small or two left. If you are any one of those sizes, or you know someone that are in those sizes, then definitely hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Send us a message there, put shirts in the subject. We will get back to you, get your information, and hopefully get you a shirt. So with that, I thank you all for watching, and we will catch you later.